Hey everyone, Lex here, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Vera and I from the Family First podcast are so excited to be here. And today we're diving into something that, well, it's kind of our whole thing, right? Getting ready to become parents. If you're part of the Family First crew, you know family's at the top of the list for us, and we bet it is for you too. So we're digging into all the ways you can prep your bodies for pregnancy. We found this awesome article called "What's the Best Fertility Diet When Trying to Get Pregnant?" And it's packed with good stuff.
Oh, yeah, this one's great.
So if you're on this journey too, hit that follow button and share this episode around. Let's jump right in. One thing that really struck me in this article is just how much what you eat affects your chances of getting pregnant. We all know staying healthy is important, but it goes way deeper than that.
Right. It's really about building a fertility diet, one that's supporting both partners, getting everything in tip-top shape.
Exactly. And, I hadn't really thought about it this way before, but food can actually act as a control for your hormones.
It really can.
The article mentioned trans fats and how they can mess with your insulin levels. Now, I know insulin helps keep your blood sugar steady, but what does that have to do with, making a baby?
Well, think about it this way. If your insulin's constantly too high, it throws off your whole hormonal balance. And that can make it harder for women to ovulate. For men, it can even affect sperm health.
Wow. Okay, so it's all connected. It's really making me think twice about what I'm putting in my body.
Right.
So this article had a whole list of foods that can actually help boost fertility. And some of them, I gotta say, I was pretty surprised by. Watermelon, asparagus, who knew?
Right. They're both full of this awesome antioxidant called glutathione.
Glutathione. Okay, break that down for me. What is that?
Think of it as a bodyguard for your eggs. It protects them from damage and helps keep them healthy. Especially important as women get older.
Ah, interesting. So watermelon and asparagus definitely going on the shopping list. What else is on this fertility superfood list?
Kale's another big one, especially for the ladies. It's not just a salad green, it actually helps your body process estrogen better.
Hold on, estrogen metabolism. What exactly does that mean?
It's basically how your body breaks down estrogen and gets rid of it. When that's working smoothly, your hormones stay balanced, which is super important for getting pregnant.
Gotcha. So kale isn't just about being healthy in general. It's like directly helping with the baby-making process. All right, guys listening, what about you? Any foods that stood out from the article?
Brazil nuts are a winner. They're packed with selenium, and that's a mineral that can really improve sperm quality and how well they move.
Makes sense. A handful a day, that's easy enough. But okay, before we all go crazy stocking up on kale and Brazil nuts, let's talk about actually fitting these foods into our lives, realistically.
Of course.
Not everyone loves kale. Some people have food allergies or things they can't eat.
Totally. That's where a little kitchen creativity comes in. You hate kale, blend it into a smoothie, you won't even taste it. Asparagus. Roasting it brings out the sweetness. And remember, it's all about balance. You don't have to eat these things for every single meal.
Right. Balance. The article also talked about some foods to cut back on when you're trying to conceive. Processed soy caught my eye. That was kind of a surprise.
Yeah, whole soy is fine, like edamame or tofu. But the processed stuff, it often has a lot of this soy protein isolate, and that can throw your hormones out of whack.
So it's about being picky with your soy. Got it. Okay, now, the big ones. Caffeine and alcohol. We all know they're not great during pregnancy, but what about before?
They both affect hormones and sperm health, so moderation is key. It goes for both partners. It's about making healthy choices together.
Makes sense. Okay, noted. And I got to ask, what about those sugary drinks? I have a feeling those are a no-no too.
You got it. They spike your blood sugar, and then your insulin goes haywire. Remember all that we talked about with insulin. Stick to water, unsweetened tea, or, sparkling water with some lemon.
That's a good swap. I could do that. Okay, so before we move on, let's paint a picture for our listeners. Imagine a couple who's really focused on this fertility diet. What would their typical day look like food-wise?
Okay, picture this. You start your day with some Greek yogurt, maybe some berries on top, and a sprinkle of those fertility-boosting Brazil nuts. Lunchtime, a nice salad with some grilled chicken or salmon, a light vinaigrette dressing, and for dinner, stir fry with brown rice, tons of colorful veggies, and maybe some tofu or tempeh for protein.
That sounds delicious and honestly pretty doable. It's all about making small changes that you can stick with. But I'm guessing there's more to this whole fertility thing than just specific meals, right?
Right.
It's got to be about your whole lifestyle.
Absolutely. We're just scratching the surface here. Diet's a huge piece of the puzzle, but there are other choices that can make a big difference on your journey to parenthood. Your overall well-being really matters.
Right. That makes total sense.
Yeah, and one of the biggest things is stress. When you're stressed out, your body goes into that whole fight or flight mode. And that's not exactly the best state for getting pregnant.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like when you're all tense and worried, I can't imagine that's good for, anything baby related.
Right. It throws off your hormones big time. So finding ways to manage stress is super important.
Totally agree. What are some of your go-to stress relievers? For me, honestly, even a few minutes of meditation can make a huge difference.
Oh, yeah. Meditation's awesome.
What?
Yoga, too. Being out in nature, listening to some chill music, doing a hobby you love, anything that helps you unwind. It's about finding what works for you and making it a part of your routine.
I love that. It's like taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It's actually part of preparing for parenthood. Speaking of healthy habits, what about exercise?
Oh, yeah. Exercise is great for fertility. It helps regulate your hormones, improves blood flow, reduces stress. All good things, right?
Definitely. Yeah. But I've also heard that, like, overdoing it can be bad too.
Ah,
How do you find that balance?
that's a good point. It's about listening to your body and finding that sweet spot where you're active but not pushing yourself to the limit. Find something you enjoy, whether it's walking, dancing, swimming, whatever.
Right. Makes sense. And of course, we can't forget about sleep. I know I'm definitely guilty of not getting enough sometimes. How important is sleep for all of this?
Sleep is crucial. When you're sleep deprived, your body pumps out more cortisol, that stress hormone we were talking about, and that can mess with your hormonal balance, which is not what we want. Aim for 7 to 9 hours of good sleep every night.
Noted. Got to get those dizzies. So we've covered diet, stress, exercise, sleep. Is there anything else people should be thinking about? I know the article didn't really go into this, but what about the emotional side of things, like the mental prep for becoming a parent?
That's such a good point. It's not just about our bodies being ready, it's about our hearts and minds, too.
Because becoming a parent is a huge change. It's life-altering.
Exactly. And that's where communication with your partner is key. Talk about your hopes and fears about becoming parents, what you expect, how you see it all going. It's also a good time to think about your own childhoods, how you were raised, what you want to do differently, that kind of thing.
It's true. Sometimes we don't even realize how much our past affects us until we're in the thick of parenting ourselves. So taking that time for reflection is huge. There's no shame getting professional help if you need it. There are therapists who specialize in helping couples prepare for this whole journey.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid to reach out. Okay, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about monitoring progress. So you've made all these changes, eating right, managing stress, sleeping enough. But how do you know if it's actually working?
Right. That's a good question. It's easy to get discouraged if you don't see results right away.
Patience is key. It takes time for your body to adjust. Remember, it's about building a healthy foundation.
But are there ways to actually track your progress?
Definitely. For women, tracking your cycle is super helpful. Are your periods becoming more regular? Are you noticing changes in your cervical mucus? Those can be signs that things are moving in the right direction.
Gotcha. And what about for guys? Is there a way to, check on sperm health?
There are at-home tests you can do, but those mostly just look at sperm count and how well they move. For a more in-depth look, it's best to see a doctor. They can give you personalized advice and answer any questions you have.
So tracking, talking to your partner, and checking in with your doctor, that's a good combo.
Exactly. And remember, the more you know about your body and how all of this works, the better choices you can make.
This has been so informative. We've covered a lot of ground here, from the sciencey stuff to actual tips for improving your chances of conceiving. Before we wrap up, any last words of wisdom for those on this journey?
Yeah, I feel like my brain is full.
So
Such
true.
good stuff to think about. As we wrap up this deep dive, is there one final piece of advice you'd give to those who are ready to start or grow their family? We've talked a lot about getting your body and mind ready for parenthood, but there's one more thing I want to highlight, and that's making sure you're having fun and staying connected as a couple.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, it's easy to get so focused on the logistics of having a baby, but why is that playfulness, that connection, so important?
Well, parenthood is amazing, don't get me wrong, but it's also hard work. It can be really demanding, and that can put a strain on your relationship. So by focusing on joy and connection now, you're building a strong foundation, one that will help you through the tough times and let you celebrate the good times together.
So it's like being intentional about nurturing your bond, even when life gets crazy.
Exactly. Make time for date nights, even if it's just dinner at home after the kids are asleep. Do things you enjoy together, whether it's hiking or cooking or just watching a movie. And don't be afraid to be silly, to be spontaneous.
I love that. Laughter and shared experiences, that's what brings people closer.
For sure. And intimacy is important too. It's about connecting physically and emotionally. It strengthens your bond and creates that closeness that's so important.
You're so right. Sometimes, in all the prep for a baby, couples can kind of forget about their own relationship.
It happens. That's why it's so important to be mindful. Make an effort to nurture your connection. It's an investment in your relationship and in your future as parents.
This has been amazing, seriously eye-opening.
Glad to hear it.
To all our awesome Family First listeners, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you learned a ton and feel empowered to take action.
And remember, you don't have to do it all at once. Start small, make gradual changes you can stick with, celebrate every step you take towards creating a healthy and loving home for your family.
If you enjoyed this, be sure to subscribe to The Deep Dive for more deep dives into all sorts of fascinating topics. And don't forget to share this episode with anyone who might find it helpful.
Until next time, keep putting your family first, keep learning, and keep growing.